Yes, hello, my beautiful friends, and welcome back. And first of all, to get things started, full apologies on that thumbnail, but I couldn't resist, had to do it. So please just tell the kids it's Halloween season. And thank you for joining us today. We've got a bunch of business to attend to. We're going to get into it. Letitia James, of course, the subject of our very first segment. So a quick preview on what's coming up, then we'll zoom in for further detail. But we got Tish now, who's in the middle of this prosecution because of her mortgage fraud. And she's making the arguments that she didn't really get any rent from the people who were in the building that she had marked as a second residence. And so we're going to learn a lot more about these two individuals, Nakia Thompson, as you can see there on the left, and of course, someone else. I forget the names. I don't know who's who over here. I don't think that's the same person, but maybe it is. We're going to learn a lot about who they are ultimately, because we got several reports. The Daily Mail, of course, came out on this one saying that her family secret is a big problem because not only is Tishy a mortgage fraudster, but the people who are in her new residence apparently beat the heck out of cops and they're fugitives or something. So here, the New York Post had breaking news that she's housing a fugitive grandniece. She's the highest law enforcement officer in New York. Very strange situation unfolding. So we're going to go through it. We got some updates on it. We're going to go through some reaction to this because Tish was out yesterday with her fist raised in the air on behalf of Commie Mom Donnie, who I think would probably also want to house a lot more fugitives, but we'll talk about that. We also are seeing there are some firings occurring in the Eastern District of Virginia, and we got reaction over here from Congressman Brandon Gill on the Tish saga that is all coming up. Then we got a very important Supreme Court battle that is a brewing, and Democrats are freaked out about this. You can see we've got this clip here from CNN. It's going to kick off this segment about the Voting Rights Act, and this is a big one that the Supreme Court is going to hear oral arguments about this week. It's called State of Louisiana versus Philip Callis, and they're unhappy about this. They're saying the Supreme Court is poised to gut the Voting Rights Act. And if you take a look at the numbers on this, is why this case is so interesting. We're going to come back to this. 19 seats is what some estimates say about what the Democratic Party could lose if their voting rigging act is obliterated by the Supreme Court as being unconstitutional because it creates districts by race, which is inappropriate to say the least. So we'll talk about that. We'll get our bearings straight. We got the final reply from the state of Louisiana, a supplemental reply, and we'll go through it to see what the arguments are so that we're nice and prepped and ready to go when SCOTUS has their oral arguments very soon. This is a major issue right now. The Democrats are celebrating that the fact that California is looking like they're going to pass SB 50 is what it's called. And if they do that, then they're going to steal some seats from America. So we have this big redistricting battle going on. We have a rigged 2020 census. This is where a lot of energy is going to be because he who controls the rules controls the game. Now, we've got more reaction on this because from Minnesota, Dustin Grage posted this, a lot of reaction on X today about it. But in Minnesota, there's an interview, there's a conversation between somebody on the city council, it looks like, or some committee, and this dude saying, wait a minute, can illegal aliens vote in our elections? And he's going to give us the biggest word salad you've ever seen since Kamala Harris's campaign, but he'll answer the question in his response, as we'll get to. So we've got that coming up. Then we'll talk about this spy who just got busted. This dude was apparently all over the place. You can see photos of him speaking at the Heritage Foundation. We know who they are. And just giving lectures about foreign policy, blah, 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 all over the place. His name's Ashley Tellis. And he's even got a Wikipedia page. Well, now he's been arrested and charged with one count of unlawful retention of national defense information, busted. And we got the criminal complaint pulled up here and the affidavit. And we'll see exactly what this dude was up to. Sneaking documents out over to the CCP. Busted. And so it's going to be a wonderful and an amazing stream. And we're very glad that you're here. But before we get into any business on the day. You know what time it is. It's annual enrollment season for Medicare. You probably noticed it. Tons of mailers and robocalls and companies just sending you notices. Now, of course, we know there's a lot of chaos out there, and a lot of these companies thrive in the chaos. But here's what matters. Medicare plans can change in 2026. Part B premiums are expected to rise by about 11%. Many Medicare Advantage plans may just disappear. We don't know. So that means even if you're happy with your plan now, costs could jump, or your doctors and prescriptions might no longer be covered. And so that's why we've got Chapter that's out there, the only advisor that compares every plan nationwide to find the one that truly fits your needs. On average, folks who've used them have saved about $1,100 a year. And so the process is quick, usually under 20 minutes. It's focused on giving you clear, unbiased advice so you can feel confident heading into the next year. So give them a call, 212-784-6742, 212-784-6742, the number on your screen, and speak with the only Medicare advisor that will solve your problems like our friends at Chapter. 212-784-6742. And we appreciate you supporting the sponsor of today's show. But now, before we get into it on the day, before we get into those three incredible segments that we have lined up, we have to pay our respects to our friend Charlie Kirk. Turning Point USA posted this on Charlie's birthday, may he rest in peace, saying, "A life lived boldly, a legacy remembered forever. Happy birthday, Charlie." And of course, we second that wholeheartedly. May he rest in peace. He has now been honored. Margot Martin posted this, showing the little behind the scenes of President Trump and Erica Kirk walking out into the Rose Garden to accept the Medal of Freedom awarded by the president to Charlie Kirk. Here's what this looked like.
Thank you very much, everybody.
All right, so it was a very nice ceremony, and we had a little bit of a clip here of the announcement and the award. Here's what it sounded like from the president and Erica Kirk to his side.
The Presidential Medal of Freedom is awarded to Charles James Kirk. Accepting on behalf of Charlie is his wife, Mrs. Erica Kirk. Charlie Kirk was one of the most influential American political figures of his generation. At just 18 years old, he founded Turning Point USA and grew it into the largest conservative youth organization in the nation. For over a decade, he tirelessly traveled the country, leading a movement to restore respect for our founding principles, reawaken our national identity, and inspire a renewed spirit of religious devotion. He was one of the great debaters and communicators of his time.
That's for sure.
Despite receiving repeated threats, he remained undeterred and modeled courage, logic, humor, and grace to the next generation. On September 10th, 2025, at age 31, Charlie Kirk was assassinated while addressing a group of students. The United States honors him as a martyr for truth and freedom.
Rest in peace, Charlie. Prayers up. All right, so a nice honor, obviously. Still surreal to even think that he is gone. I see the clips, I scroll around, I see the videos pop up. I'm like, man, that dude's awesome. And then you think, oh man, he's not here anymore. So a beautiful ceremony, obviously, well-deserved. Happy birthday to Charlie. Congratulations on your Medal of Honor. You deserved it, my friend. And we'll see you again, but not yet. Now, while all this was happening, the people over at MSNBC couldn't be bothered because they love the death of their political opponents and don't want to talk about it. Here is what it looked like. Rapid Response 47 shared this, saying everybody was talking about it except MSDNC. And this woman over there, she's probably talking about, maybe to Andrew Weissman, about how Trump's a dictator. Everyone else is covering it, paying their respects, except the MSNBC freaks. So happy birthday to Charlie. May he rest in peace. Prayers up for his fam and everybody. And so we pay our respects. Thank you, Charlie, for everything. All right, now let's turn our attention to some other business. A little bit more lighthearted, little, awkward segue here. Now that we're going to be talking about Tishy, but we'll make it work. Tish James in big trouble. We know she's being prosecuted for mortgage fraud, and now she's got to explain herself and what she was doing with that rental property. She said in her taxes that she was getting income from it. Then they responded and said, actually, we weren't getting any income from it because we had family in the house. My grandniece was living there. And so everybody said, oh, that's very nice of you. I wonder what your grandniece is up to. What's her status? What's her deal? Well, we're going to learn a lot more about it because these are the people who are apparently residing in the building. And we're going to get into it because one of these individuals, if that is not the same person, I'm not real sure yet. We're going to figure all this out together here today. But apparently, Tish is housing a fugitive in her house. In her Virginia home. A fugitive, wanted person. So let's get into it. First of all, the story started with the Daily Mail. They released this exclusive. She's got a humiliating family secret showing that it's a problem for a law enforcer, right? She's the New York Attorney General, the chief law enforcement officer of the entire state. Not ideal to be housing fugitives. The tenant who's actually living in the Virginia house that is the subject of her federal indictment is a fugitive from justice. The Daily Mail can exclusively reveal. James has reportedly allowed her grandniece called Nakia Thompson, along with Thompson's 3 children, to live in the 3-bedroom property in Norfolk, Virginia. Now, in an embarrassing twist for Trump's nemesis, I guess it's Tish, Daily Mail has discovered that she is officially listed as an absconder who is being sought by authorities in North Carolina for failing to finish her probation. And Tish is just storing her away, hiding her from the authorities. Probably patting herself on the back for it too. Thompson was sentenced to probation for misdemeanor convictions for assault and battery and trespassing. What a nice lady. And has willfully avoided probation supervision, says communications director over from the North Carolina Department of Corrections. An absconder is considered a fugitive, and she faces arrest if she's come and located in North Carolina. He said her crimes of assault and trespass are considered non-extraditable due to their low level, and so they're not going to go track her down or make a big show of it. But if she's back there, she gets pulled over or something in North Carolina. Oh, you're driving through here. You've got essentially you're wanted. You haven't completed your probation. And so we're going to pick you up. The 36-year-old told a grand jury in June that she had been living rent-free in Tishy's home, now worth 235 G's, since Tish bought it, claiming James pays for everything. No, so it's not mortgage fraud because I wasn't collecting income. James was indicted by a federal grand jury in Virginia on charges of bank fraud and making a false statement, as we've talked about. Now, exclusive photos from the Daily Mail show Halloween decorations on display and buckets from home improvement store called Lowe's on the porch of the house, suggesting it's recently been spruced up. There's Tish, mortgage fraudster. And then this is Nakia Thompson. And apparently it is the same person. Now, I didn't know if these were pajamas or what, but it's probably just a Halloween costume, right? Given the fact that from the photos, there's evidence that they're decorating for Halloween. So I don't know. Maybe it's something from like the Addams Family or something. I don't really know. But Nakia, 36. She was pictured on Saturday has been living at the Nor F-word home. And on the North Carolina DC website is an appeal for information leading to Thompson's whereabouts. They've got a mugshot. They've got an offender number and the whole thing. During her time at New York State's top prosecutor of New York, Letitia has championed her work. Remember, she says, I bring fugitives to justice. I extradite from Pakistan and drag them over here. She also famously persuaded a New York judge to go after President Trump, found him liable after that was evaporated, $450 million. We remember that scam case. Her supporters, and she didn't even do anything. She sat behind the bar in the courtroom and just smirked at the camera and took her shoes off and stunk the whole place up, according to Alina Abba. Her supporters have claimed that it was her sweeping civil case that made Trump seek. It's not seeking vengeance. She committed mortgage fraud. Bill Pulte's going through this and saying, any fraudsters out here? Let me just take a look. Tish scraped through Trump's private loan deals to find something that she could pervert into a civil fraud statute. The banks didn't complain. Trump didn't sign anything that didn't have a clear disclaimer that said, do your own analysis on the terms of the loan. It wasn't a mortgage fraud where she signed, I will use this as a second residence, which is exactly what she did in her mortgage rider. Now, what about Comey, Pencil, and Letitia? Said Trump, they're all guilty as hell, but nothing is going to be done. He was saying that to Pam. And they should be investigated. They broke the law. So now they say that Bondi was caught off guard after Lindsay Halligan, here's the residence. Yeah, it looks nice. Says James is currently in hot water after being accused of claiming the 3-bed, 1-bath property was a second home. It's not. That lady's living there and going for a morning stroll. And the Daily Mail just got a bunch of photos. Goodness. And then we had more. Halligan reportedly did not tell Bondi about any of this. Last month, Trump also replaced somebody else over there. And all of these institutionalists who've been dragging their feet on these things, afuera, get out. When approached by the Daily Mail, Nakia, Tish's grandniece, simply said no comment before bizarrely adding, she said, that she was very much in college. Okay, I'm very much in college, and I'm very much a graduate. Before moving to the home in 2020, which the prosecutor had purchased for 109 G's, man, house doubled. Thompson had a string of brushes with the law. In 2005, she was placed on probation in North Carolina for simple assault, and the following year was handed a suspended sentence for 2 counts of assault against a government official. In 2011, she was given a suspended sentence for assault and battery and second-degree trespass, again, in Forsyth County. This appears to have been the offense for which she became an absconder. Man, it is the same woman. Wow. All right, so Nikia Monique Thompson. Okay, born 1989. Black African-American, age 36. Absconder. What is Tish doing with these absconders in her home? She trying to keep them away from the law? This is curious. Public records show that her first name is misspelt on the website, is officially listed as an absconder. Assault and battery, second-degree trespass. Misdemeanors. Okay, so not felonies. These are lower-level misdemeanors, which is why she's not extraditable. And just continued on. Offense date, one is in 2005, and these others are in 2006. So she's been on the run for a while. Another one was 2011, assault again. Assault, and a threat against the government principal. My goodness. And another simple assault. This lady just likes to beat people, apparently. So they have now identified all of this. Let's see what else we have. They tell us, according to the North Carolina DOC website, around 80,000 people are serving community supervision. And when absconders are caught, they face a variety of consequences, ranging to an extension of revocation or even a possible return of prison for violating their terms. In 2019, she was also arrested on grand larceny and petite larceny charges and given 2 years probation in order to pay $2,020 in costs. She pled guilty. She was also charged with possession of burglary tools, a felony, but that charge was dropped. Wow. Yeah, that's interesting. Virginia court records state that she faced more than a dozen driving cases, including speeding, driving with her license revoked, and a safety belt violation. Wow. In June last year, she was found guilty in absentia, didn't even show up to court, and fined $50 for failing to have a proper child restraint in her car. Her kids are bouncing around, flying all over the place, for crying out loud. In July this year, she was charged with 4 misdemeanors in a single day. Oh, Tish, get your house in order. Literally, you've got a repeat offender in there. She was fined $244 and ordered to pay $101 for doing 80 and a 55. What a maniac. Thompson admitted improperly stopping a vehicle on a highway. She's nuts. So she is literally going after other people and like pulling them over, admitted to improperly stopping a vehicle on a highway. What the heck is she? She was found guilty of failing to have her vehicle inspected, expired registration. Among the other matters she's dealt with, marijuana, which was dismissed, contributing to the delinquency of a minor. Here you go, little Robbie. Here, have some pot. What are you doing? I'm 8 years old. The charge often relates to actions by a parent that allow their child to stay out past curfew. Yeah, you can get contributing to the, for alcohol or whatever, right? She may have bought some alcohol for some kids or something. In Thompson's case, the charges were eventually dismissed on her Facebook page. The mother appears to make light of her criminality. One post from her shows blood splattered on a black background with the words, "Knick-knacks crime." Grand larceny, a crime that she was actually charged with. A caption on the picture of her read, "Nick has a low tolerance for bees." Another post asks, "What type of bees are you?" And she replied, "The aggressive bee. Knick-knacks crime. Grand larceny with blood." That's Tish's grandniece. And here's more, apparently. Nick, yes, President Trump, that effing perfect smile is all thanks to me. I know, you're welcome. What the hell is this? She also shared a bizarre meme post in which she appears to have a text conversation with Trump. Trump texts her, "Nick, yes, President Trump, that perfect smile is all thanks to me. I know, you're welcome." Other posts include a picture of a marijuana leaf with the caption, "Never underestimate the wisdom of a stoner." She also reposted some other text, which reads, "Yeah, I effed up, did some effed up stuff, made some effed up decisions, did some stuff I regret." Substituting words for hers. In a bizarre post, she also appears to have a text conversation with Trump. Then she wrote next to it, "Wow," 2 laugh emojis, and no. She works as a stalker at Walmart, cashier at Wendy's. Then she worked for Tish's campaign for 4 months. She was a seasonal representative. Yeah, I'm sure she was working hard. A 5-page indictment was unsealed, and we went through that in detail. Tish said, "It's my second home." No, it's not. It's for your repeat offender. The alleged discrepancy was laid bare in a financial disclosure form filed the same year, which listed the property as an investment, quote. A detail now central to the charges that could land her behind bars for up to 30 years. By misrepresenting the property, they say, James was able to avoid a 0.8% higher loan rate. She saved $17,000 plus another $3,000 in seller credits. Another source said that she would sometimes go there for an extended stay, okay, several times a year. So that's going to be the backup plan that we talked about yesterday. They're going to say, no. She slept on the futon all the time. They ordered takeout. They had, whatever they do type parties over there. I don't know. Thompson's mother also lives nearby in another property owned by James. Oh, that's curious. The indictment also says that while James indicated to her mortgage broker that she expected to use the house as a second home, she had instead, in her taxes, said it was a rental investment property, renting the property to a family. James has denied everything. She's now raising her fist in the air and all the things. But yeah, very interesting. And Tish, she might get accolades for this. She might have a bunch of people like, yeah, F the law, defund the police. We want communism. She was out there in New York with Mom Donnie, raising her fist in the air, saying, our time has come, giving a little bit of a weird speech, like they might be in favor of this. That she's like saving people, like she's Harriet Tubman or something like that. Don't know. But the New York Post also says that she was arrested twice for assaulting cops. That's who those federal officials were. Says that she's says the New York top law enforcer is housing a cop-hating fugitive in her home. Tish and her grandniece, called Nakia, currently wanted in North Carolina, failing to complete the terms of her parole. She was arrested in 2011, been on the run since. In Winston-Salem. Now, in that case, she was charged with malicious conduct by a prisoner, a felony, along with assault of a government official and resisting a public officer. Since then, she's been living in Tish's property. Now, they accuse her of lying on her mortgages, looking for more information on the underlying charge. Lengthy rap sheet, we've seen it. 3 counts of assault on a government official, misdemeanor probation violations, bond forfeiture, arrested in a previous case. Also, driving without a valid license, improperly attached registration plates, and more. She got 60 days in jail. And she copped to assaulting a government official and resisting, pled down to 60 days in prison. They let her out. The malicious conduct charge was dropped. She's gotten benefit after benefit. And now she's just living in Tish's property. Now, again, the question, of course, is, was she paying anything? Did Tish actually stay there? Does it require payment in order to be fraudulent? Or is Tish just getting a benefit by virtue of the fact that she's putting her grandniece in there, who probably couldn't qualify for a mortgage on her own, right? Because of all of these records, and she probably doesn't have a good credit score, I would guess. And so she can't go get her own mortgage. So Tish is getting a benefit. I can't just throw my niece out in the middle of the street. So I'll just put her in here. I'll get a second mortgage, or I'll get a reduced rate mortgage by saying it's a second residence. And the benefit would still accrue to her, right? So we'll see what their defense looks like. As we've seen on the court docket, they have still not entered their appearance, and they may not do that until after her court date coming up on 10/23, but there is a lot going on here. And to get a little more flavor on this burger, here's what it sounded like when our friends over at the Daily Caller, or the Daily Caller, went and had a conversation with Nakia.
Hi there. I'm a reporter with the Daily Caller News Foundation.
Goodbye, you're trespassing.
I'm sorry.
He's on public sidewalk.
I understand. We mean no trouble. We're just curious who the occupants of the home are,
Don't
because
worry
there's
about who's occupants. That's none of your business.
well there are
trespassing.
connections. There are connections to
Okay, but
New
you're
York Attorney
trespassing.
General Letitia
That doesn't
James.
matter. You're trespassing.
Are you related to
You're
Letitia James?
trespassing.
Do you know her?
You're trespassing. Go in the house.
Do you know
You're
Letitia James?
trespassing.
No? Okay.
You're trespassing.
No comment. Thank you,
Don't
ma'am.
come up to my house no more.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. You have a good one.
It's gonna be powerful. can
You will.
record all you want.
Be well.
There's a car parked in the driveway.
Hello there, ma'am.
No comment, you're trespassing.
No comment?
Yeah, you're trespassing.
Okay, who lives here?
You're trespassing.
Who lives here, ma'am?
No comment.
No comment. Okay.
Nobody wants to answer any questions about it. We all know why. So here was apparently some more. You've got Kayla Hairston, which is another person who's come into the picture, and Nakia Monique Thompson. Look at all those charges contributing to the delinquency of a minor or child abuse. And of course, that could be as simple as, buying alcohol for somebody, but who knows what she did. Now, here from CNN, this was some time ago, and I just wanted to reflag this for us because this is what their excuse has been this entire time. It's finally getting a little bit more meat on the bones, saying, well, actually, I gave it to my repeat offender niece.
Aside for a second, what Tish James, and again, we're still getting the details, but if it's related to this mortgage issue, I mean, this is something that everyone in America, or many people at least, if you're lucky enough to be able to buy a house in America, you deal with this. Right? The federal government doesn't go after all of these people for doing this.
So since everybody does it, she's like, I don't know what her mortgage situation looks like there, but she's like, I mean, doesn't everybody just commit fraud and sign documents that are not accurate? I mean, what's the big deal? Now you're getting caught. No, because it's not appropriate at all. The rest of us follow the rules. Why can't you guys? So here is Letitia, little taste of this, just so you can get a flavor. They're all screaming Tish. They want more Tish constantly in their lives. Power to the mortgage fraudsters. Yeah.
I love you. I love you.
Yeah, gosh. All right, so we got enough of that. Now, she's being prosecuted. She's got Abby Lowell, who's going to be defending her. As we saw, he has not entered his notice of appearance yet. and she's scheduled for her first arraignment or her initial appearance on October 24th, coming up soon. But there's also some other big changes happening in the Eastern District of Virginia, where a lot of prosecutions are happening. Here, an exclusive from CNN, updated today, saying that a senior prosecutor is now removed. Lindsay Halligan is cleaning house. All of the dead weight being thrown out on their booties, saying Maggie Cleary is now gone, has been removed from her office by Maggie. The senior Justice Department prosecutor who briefly led the Eastern District of Virginia has been removed from office. Get out. It's unclear if she is still employed or just in a different role. She couldn't be reached immediately on Monday. I don't know anything about her, but if they made a decision to let her go, well, I think we have a default presumption here. But Cleary is the latest person exiting the office, as the Justice Department political leadership has become bolder in removing these people. Halligan moved quickly to reassert her authority. Several firings. They say she's becoming personally involved. This is unusual for a U.S. attorney. Yeah. You have to come in and take over if there's a problem. The move indicates a deepening split between Halligan, who leads the office, and its roster of experienced prosecutors. Any prosecutor in their office who says that they're like a civil servant, or if you're like, hey, why should I keep you here in the Eastern District? They're like, well, it's because I'm a civil servant and I have decades of experience. You're gone. Get out. Anyone else? Anybody else? Raise your hand if you agree with that before you fire him. Raise your hand. Civil servant with decades of experience. Civil servant with decades of experience. Perfect. You're all fired. Get out. Another source familiar with the dynamic in the office told CNN that Halligan was interested in moving around prosecutors who she believed may oppose her work. Yeah. Cleary's departure is the latest in a string of resignations. The first was Eric Siebert. Cleary also sided with career prosecutors. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Anybody here who is a career prosecutor with decades of career experience who works as a civil servant? Raise your hands. She sat, man, I would just love to be in charge for like a day. She sat back in the back row, not at the government table, when Halligan presented the indictment. She was pouting. Two other career prosecutors fired. Again, they say, you're gone. Michael Ben Airy and Maya Song also fired. Good luck. Bye. Their futures are freed up. They can go pursue other things with their civil servant skill sets. Good luck. Justice Department leadership, they're screaming about, is more concerned with punishing the enemies, says Ben Airy. Okay, that's why you had to go. Ben Airy. Cleary, with years of prosecutorial and trial experience, had served in other Republican leadership. Well, not anymore. She then served for a U.S. attorney position for about 3 days before Trump put in Halligan. And now she's gone. And good riddance to these career civil servant prosecutors who have done the worst job at actually pursuing justice. They've allowed their entire institution to become politicized and weaponized. And now they can go do that in some ACLU job somewhere else. So our friend, Congressman Brandon Gill, had this to share today. He said, Letitia James said herself that when powerful people cheat to get better loans, it's hardworking Americans who pay the price. She said it, not us. She should be held to the same standard as anyone else. Here's Brandon Gill.
I agree with Letitia James whenever she stated that no one is above the law. And what happened here is a grand jury determined that there is sufficient evidence to bring to indictment allegations of mortgage fraud against her. She's going to have her day in court. It's going to be about 2 weeks from today.
Exactly.
And we'll see what the court decides. But it looks like there is sufficient evidence here to reasonably say that she did indeed commit mortgage fraud. And if she did, she needs to be held to the same standards as anybody else would. I mean, this is somebody who tweeted whenever she was going after President Trump, weaponizing the New York Justice Department against the president, that when powerful people cheat to get better loans, it comes at the expense of hardworking people. She needs to be held to that standard as well. I agree with
she can defend herself in court. Arraignment coming up October 24th. Of course, we're going to cover it extensively. We're going to get all the documents and see what their defenses are in writing when they drop. But the case and the prosecution will continue. the dominoes continue to fall. We'll be here to cover it. Thank you for subscribing and joining as we do. Now, we're not done yet, my friends. We have a major Supreme Court case to talk about, and let's do it. Democrats are freaked. The Supreme Court is about to hear a case coming up in their docket called State of Louisiana versus Philip Cayce that talks about voting rights, and in particular, the Voting Rights Act. And we're going to go through this, but after we see the implications of what this could mean if the Supreme Court comes back out and says, you know what, racial gerrymandering, using race to create districts is actually unconstitutional. It's inappropriate for governments to be doing that, to create little special districts to try to balance the scales on these things. And if the Voting Rights Act is found to be unconstitutional, Democrats could lose 19 of their rigged seats in Congress. While California is trying to cram through SB 50, and a lot of the blue states have already been playing this game for a long time, trying to rig the census so they get more apportionment by undercounting the red states and overcounting the blue states, by bringing illegal aliens into their sanctuary cities to get more congressional budget and appropriations and more congressional representations, which leads to more electoral votes. If this comes to a stop, they're in big trouble. And so before we get in to the final reply before oral arguments in the Supreme Court that is queued up now, here's some background on what is going on and why they're so nervous about this from CNN out of their own mouths.
Actually represents pretty accurately, mathematically, how the country is divided over the question of the presidency. But if you look at this is what the party pickups would be for congressional districts. Republicans, 5. Missouri, 1. North Carolina, 1. Ohio, 2 or 3. Indiana, 1 or 2. Florida, still discussion down there, but that could be another gold mine for them if they tipped it even further their way. Kansas, 1. New Hampshire, 1. And Nebraska. Democrats, Utah, California, Maryland. Look at this. If you offset California and Texas, Missouri and Utah, North Carolina and Maryland, everything left over is an advantage to the Republicans. And don't forget, the Supreme Court is considering what could really be the end of the Voting Rights Act, which would protect minority groups. So you don't have a state that's half black, for example, that elects only 1 congressional member and everybody else.
Protect is what they say. In other words, rig it.
Goes to the Republicans that would represent that population in some ways. So if that is gutted, Democrats could lose 19 seats. This would be a huge amount. But this is also a measure of how much the White House is concerned about this, because Donald Trump knows if the Democrats get the House again, there could be new investigations just like last time. There could be a new impeachment. There could be a lot of impediment to these plans that right now the Republicans in the House and Senate are letting run like a freight train.
Let's go. All right, so we don't want unconstitutional voting rights laws that try to rig House seats for certain groups of people in America. And now the Supreme Court is going to be hearing the case. And so it is been working its way through the Supreme Court for a long time. Here's the docket. And let me share with you some of the background on this one. You can see all of these filings coming in, okay? Just gobs of filings. Everybody, Pacific Legal, Judicial Watch, Center for Election Confidence, Amicus of the U.S. government filing on this one. It's a battle between it's happening in Louisiana, working its way up. Can we draw our districts appropriately? Or do we have to follow these racially gerrymandered, racially carved up districts under the Voting Rights Act? Louisiana says we don't want to do that anymore. Now it's working its way up. Solicitor General, towns of Newburgh. We've got state of Missouri, Nancy Landry, a bunch of people, letter from Louisiana, America First Legal, Landmark Legal, professors coming in. List goes on and on. Okay, you get the point. Now, we're scheduled for oral arguments in the Supreme Court of the United States, and we have a final supplemental reply that has come in from Louisiana, and so we'll just pick it up there because that's basically the final word. But before we zoom in on it, a little bit more background. From CNN, their perspective on this is that the Supreme Court is poised to gut the Voting Rights Act, and there's already been some slow kind of whittling away at it. 2 years ago, for some backdrop, the U.S. Supreme Court surprised observers and even some inside the court when it narrowly preserved the Voting Rights Act, 1965, And what it created, which were race-based remedies that were intended to counteract historic discrimination against blacks and other minorities. But new signals from the current justices point to a reversal and suggest a looming retrenchment of the landmark civil rights case. The court may be on the brink of forbidding the consideration of race in redistricting and eroding the state's ability to consolidate blacks or other racial minorities into majority-minority districts to boost their chance of electing a candidate of their choice. And you've seen that in the maps of all the states. You see all the districts, and you have the ones that are like, you know, big chunk over here, little squiggles over here, little, you know, connects it over this way. You have a big chunk over here and connect it over here, or it's like all, you know, kind of jagged and just cobbled together. That's because they're going through like, oh, okay, all the black people over here, loop around. Okay, all these white people, no, avoid that. Get over here, a little bit more black people over here. Get rid of the whites, more blacks over here. And they create the districts. And that's dividing people by race, which I thought was inappropriate to do that. But now we're going to go back and revisit it. The long-standing Voting Rights Act was a cure for discriminatory maps. It's now going to be argued this week at the Supreme Court. The controversy originally held last March, but the justices could not resolve it at the time. And so they've ordered new arguments. But when they do, they've been known to rule far more consequentially. Okay, they're like, we got to hear this again. And now we're here. In the redistricting fight, the court announced in August that it would expand the legal question to squarely answer the following: whether voting rights acts and remedies creating districts that are tied to race and used for decades, why they might violate the Constitution's guarantee of equal protection under the law, under the 14th Amendment. The eventual decision would affect the fate of candidates in the 2026 midterms and reverberate all across the country for years to come. That's why it's so important. Here is what the final word was from the state of Louisiana. Writing from the DOJ down at the state level, Elizabeth Murrell, Attorney General, sends this one in to the Supreme Court saying, all right, look, if you have race-based redistricting, that is inappropriate for these reasons. Let's get into them. Fast forwarding to the beginning. They say, all right, Supreme Court, here's the final word on this. The court should decide this case on constitutional principle and not statutory plastic surgery, cobbling it all together. In the redistricting context, the whole point of the enterprise under Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act is to draw additional majority-minority districts with an express racial target in mind. Okay, they're saying this is what the law says, both to prove up a Section 2 plaintiff's case and to install a remedy for any violation. A lot of technical stuff here. She says, but to hear them explain this to you, court, this is a good life. Like they're trying to cobble together a bunch of stuff. And they say this is great. They praise this as brilliant. And they love the clarity and the exactness. They refer to this case. And they say, oh, no. It's not too racist or anything. There's safeguards. There's guardrails. And we're allowed to do this. But this is not real life. Okay. As we've seen in other cases. The reality is that the Voting Rights Act and the Section 2 and the race-based redistricting mandate as implemented by the court in case law is both unworkable and it's unconstitutional. You can't just cobble this thing together. That is why parties and amici have friends of the court have flooded the docket, as we just showed you, with myriad proposals for repairs. Well, let's just fix the Gingles case. We'll just fix Gingles. We'll just give it some updates and renovations, and we'll just, modify things a little bit. They say it's ridiculous. That's going to make Frankenstein blush. It's like hacking together all the body parts. And I think it's Frankenstein's monster, isn't it? Frankenstein wasn't the one that actually maybe that's appropriate because it's Frankenstein who's making the monster, right? So that makes sense. But no amount of surgery can eliminate the constitutional defects inherent in a system that, at the end of the day, requires states to sort their citizens by race and to create these little districts of similarly colored people. To that end, 3 points warrant emphasis as briefing closes in this case. 1, U.S. Supreme Court should affirm the judgment below on the independent ground that the government may never use race as a stereotype or a negative. We don't carve people up by race in America officially. And second, the court should affirm the judgment below on the independent ground that race-based redistricting lacks a logical endpoint. And third, if the court thinks it's necessary to step into strict scrutiny frameworks, race-based redistricting is not a compelling interest. Okay, and so strict scrutiny is one of these standards of review. When we say, what does the law say? And we apply the law to the Constitution and we ask, is this law constitutional or not? There's different methods of analysis. Rational basis review, you measure the law against the Constitution using a test that's basically rational basis review. Very low level tests. Strict scrutiny is the highest level because it's infringing on a constitutional protection. So if they're going to infringe on that, they got to have a very compelling reason to do that. And the courts have called that the strict scrutiny standard or the strict scrutiny test. So is there a compelling interest for carving up the states based on color? No, they say, if you even have to get there. Now, this case should begin and end with the twin commands of the Equal Protection Clause that the government may never use race as a stereotype or negative. And they say it's unconstitutional principally because it rests on a racial stereotype. It says all voters of a particular race must, by virtue of their membership in their racial community and class, think alike, share the same interests, and prefer the same political candidates. And that's what the Democratic Party relies on. That's why they carve everybody up and treat everybody like trading cards. We got 2 trans, 1 gay, and 3 blacks. I got a full house or whatever. As Louisiana explained, that class-based stereotype is baked into the case law, and it's unconstitutional. It focuses on the minority group in each of the 3 preconditions. And it's also extremely racist. It's like, well, if you're black, you're going to vote for the black candidate. Is that true? Does that have to be true? Like, why are you making that judgment? Why don't we just let the districts fall where they may and then people can decide accordingly? Now, that racial stereotype is at odds with this court's precedent. At the heart of the Constitution is a guarantee of equal protection. The court has said, and it has said lies the simple command that the government must treat individuals as citizens as individuals, not just components of some sort of racial class. Gingles violates that command. It's illegal. And so too does each federal court and state that tries to draw district lines with, quote, an express racial target in mind, which they do. California is doing it right now. Some top-aside amicus briefs try to downplay this problem. They say, well, the case law avoids stereotyping by requiring a plaintiff to show that the minority group is politically cohesive. And by that logic, they say, that requires a consistently strong shared communal presence. And again, it's basically racist. So that argument implies that the political cohesion requirement compels Section 2 to show that every single minority voter shares the same political preferences. It's not accurate, not even close. It's racist to presume everybody acts the same. According to another topside amicus brief, they're referencing a bunch of the other filings. The most common presumption applied by lower courts is that political cohesion exists if more than 60% of the relevant voters typically support the same candidates. Well, if that number is correct, you know what that means? If it's 60%, it means the other 40% are not the same. But the Gingles framework carries on with its focus of minority groups and the minority preferred candidate. And it is racial stereotyping. The 14th Amendment forbids it from happening. That's why we had the Civil War and all of the Reconstruction amendments. Also inherent in this race-based redistricting is the improper use of race as a negative. In zero-sum contexts like this, a benefit provided to some but not to others necessarily advantages the former group and hurts the other. Creating a safe district for a minority group with allegedly shared political preferences comes at the expense of voters of other races who may have different political preferences. Yeah, so it's like, why are you drawing your district for the blacks versus for the Hispanics. You're going to carve that up for one group as opposed to another group, and one group gets preference over another? That's strange. It feels kind of racist. To its credit, one top side amicus brief owns up to this elementary arithmetic. If you add one to one side, you have to subtract it from the other. And the same elementary arithmetic shows the effect on non-minority voters as well, saying that a surplus of non-minorities cannot be negated without an offsetting reduction. And so it's one at the expense of another. Of course, we know who it is at the expense of. Independent of those defects, race-based redistricting is also unconstitutional because it lacks a logical endpoint. Just goes on forever. Neither the appellants nor the amici have a serious answer to this problem. One brief tries to avoid this problem by insisting that there is no racial classification in play. They say, well, the law doesn't classify on the basis of race. The law doesn't say that. And it also claims the requirement of a time limit doesn't apply to it. But they say that's frivolous. The question in this re-argument that we've already heard arguments on is this: whether intentionally drawing a majority-minority district, as the court has interpreted Section 2, is constitutional. By definition, it is impossible to draw a district without racially classifying citizens. Hence the problem that the authority to conduct race-based redistricting cannot extend indefinitely into the future. And so the appellants and the amici, they struggle to identify any conceivable logical endpoint. Like, when does this end? Like, when is it good enough that we've all commingled or whatever? And when can this finally stop? They don't even want to talk about that. And Section 2 has not resulted in what they've said it's going to promise. So it's not serving the ends. It's not compelling as a solution. The Robinson appellants also devote a lot of their attention saying, well, Section 2 will self-sunset once current conditions, whatever they say they are satisfied. Now, they say it's astounding to see that these appellants represent, they say nothing in Section 2 ties violations to data or practices from the distant past, like literacy tests or low voter registration and turnouts in the 60s and 70s, citing a bunch of other conversations that have occurred in quotes here that we'll just fast forward through. But they say, while they say that Section 2 will phase itself out once the people who are filing the lawsuits can no longer satisfy the framework, it's misleading. The argument doesn't address the South. The Robinson appellates and their self-sunset theory, like it'll just naturally expire once we don't need it anymore. Now, in a vacuum, this theory suggests that it's going to take care of itself throughout the entire country. But that is where everyone gives the game away. Where do residential segregation and racially polarized voting remain high? Where? Only in the Black Belt of the Deep South, comprising portions of Alabama, Arkansas, Georgia, Louisiana, Mississippi, South Carolina. So the proponents of Section 2, of drawing these districts up, freely admit that it has real teeth, just in places like the Deep South, where minority voters are still residentially concentrated and voting is still highly racially polarized. And no one knows if ever that's going to ever change. If it never does, then Section 2 will never sunset. So in that way, this self-sunset theory is also a de facto version of the equal sovereignty problem that this court has also criticized before. True, the equal sovereignty issue, there was written into the Voting Rights Act, they put it in there. But the state's entitlement to equal power, dignity, and authority is still valid. And in all events, the self-sunset theory is not going to solve itself, right? If it is continuing to be a problem, it will continue to exist. And so this is not a compelling interest. There's no reason for us to have this. Remember, compelling interest, if the government is infringing on your right, in this case, it would be the right to be treated with equal protection under the law, under the 14th Amendment. Everybody gets treated the same. You don't carve up one group against another group. Like, we're going to create a black district over here so that the white people don't have it, but all the Mexicans and Hispanics are sitting around going, "¿Qué pasa? The heck's going on over here?" from these other independent grounds for reversal in that case. I mean, they're being, so how about we just don't play one group against each other? Now, that is deeply important in Louisiana's view. They're not satisfying strict scrutiny. There's no real compelling reason that this is achieving. Now, that is deeply important in Louisiana's view because affirming on those grounds would shut down arguments in future cases that race did not predominate in a particular map. They say strict scrutiny is inapplicable, right? If you're carving people up by race, if you're treating people as a group of people based on their race and the laws are impacting you, we say that you're a suspect class, okay? We don't want that to be happening. So we're going to add some pretty compelling, like if a law is going to say only black people can drink at this water fountain, you're like, you're carving up a group of people based on race. That's inappropriate to do. So we're going to say you're a suspect class. And if there are laws that are directed towards that suspect class, we have to be very careful with those and we apply strict scrutiny. Now, and to be clear, there is a very serious risk that they're just going to say, well, no, race had nothing to do with this map that just happened to carve out all of these groups. And just say, so we don't need to apply strict scrutiny because the carve out is not about a suspect class, right? So we don't need to apply that high standard. It's just a lower standard called rational basis review, which just basically means if there's any rational basis for the law, then it's good enough for them. But this is a risk. They're just going to try to classify things that are race-based as not race-based. But if the court doesn't like our first two arguments and you do proceed to strict scrutiny, there are a number of reasons why race-based redistricting is not a compelling interest. Rather than recount them all, the state here focuses on one in particular, where Robinson, the appellants, and their amici severely misapprehend the court cases and the state of the law. In prior cases, the court observed that its precedents have identified only two compelling interests. Okay, so it's got to be a really good reason that permit resort to race-based government action. Okay, it's like can't just, pass laws that target races. One is remediating specific identified instances of past discrimination that violated the Constitution or a statute, while the second is avoiding imminent and serious risks to human safety in prisons, like if there's a race riot. In a prison, okay, you can divide people by race because that's the conflict. There's a race riot. So it is compelling so that they don't kill each other in a prison. In this case, the appellants and their friends have latched onto the first statement. They say, oh, well, it's okay. So the law has said that we can go back and remediate past discrimination. And they say section 2, perfect. So that's a compelling interest, but they say that's wrong. This court's cases make clear that remediating specific identified instances of past discrimination means remedying the effects of past intentional discrimination. Targeted. Saying, in other cases here, of course, nobody claims or could claim that Louisiana intentionally discriminated against black voters by not drawing two major majority minority districts. Indeed, the Middle District in Robinson, another court, itself thought it irrelevant that there is no evidence of black voters being denied the right to vote. Right? Do they get to vote? Okay, great. So what's your argument? But the appellants repeatedly claim, they say race-based redistricting, so if we can just create special districts for certain colors of people, it remediates discrimination. It's fixing an old wrong. And that they prove discrimination in other cases, and that there is discrimination against black voters. Now, that's all wordplay, they call it. It should be called out for what it is. They're trying to dilute the term. They're trying to make intentional discrimination to include another concept called vote dilution. Vote dilution is not intentional discrimination subject to the Supreme Court precedent, which is not necessarily based on a finding of intentional discrimination at all. The Robinson appellants are asking the court, they want you to expand the universe of compelling interests that would allow race-based government action. And we don't do that. We have two reasons why you should reject this, SCOTUS. First, there are exceptions in the law that have now been the outermost constitutional limits of what is allowed for race-based government action. On constitutional principle, therefore, it makes good sense to decline to expand that because we've already met the end of it. No more race-based classifications at all. Second, weakening the exception for intentional discrimination, just kind of shoving in vote dilution in there, would also create additional problems as we have seen. Now, if neither litigants nor the courts can have confidence in a governing standard, nobody should be able to come in and wield the awesome power of race-based action. We don't want that. And so one final word, Supreme Court. If the court affirms the judgment below, it should remand to permit the district court and the parties to assess the proper path forward. A remand with the thumb on the scales for them is not going to be consistent. We need a conclusion that the Voting Rights Act that allows race-based districting to occur is illegal. And so affirm the lower level judgment signed by the Attorney General Elizabeth Murrell up to the Supreme Court of the United States. And as we saw from CNN, if that happens and we don't allow special districts to be created to serve certain classes of people at the expense of other classes of people, then they may lose 19 of their rigged seats, which would be devastating for them, which is why you can see why they want this and all of their rigged rules to continue in perpetuity. One person who's freaked out about the prospect of losing their rigged game is Barack Obama. He said, California, this November 4th, the whole country is counting on you. We're not. Well, we are. We would appreciate if you did the right thing and stopped rigging your elections as you've already have. But he says Prop 50 is going to steal a bunch of seats back. It's going to put our elections back on a level playing field. One state is going to change the rules for the whole country. It preserves independent redistricting over the long term, and it lets people decide. So return your ballot today. Vote yes on 50. So that's from Barack Obama. And he has a whole video. We're not going to listen to it because it's Barack Obama. But here was another interesting thing happening, courtesy of Dustin Grage and many others in Minnesota clipping this. But we appreciate this clip that explains what's going on here. We have a conversation here. Minnesota elections director, just to show you how screwed up and rigged the elections are, he admits that illegal aliens can vote in elections. All they need is a driver's license in Minnesota. I know you're shocked. And so we've got two people, a representative called Anderson and the elections director, Paul, in here explaining how illegal aliens can just walk right in on an election polling location and vote for whomever they want.
Okay, so the answer to my question is yes. Under that scenario, someone could, they get their driver's license, again, because we give them to anybody here. They register to vote. It doesn't match with the social security number, so they're flagged, but they come in as long as they have an ID, which is that driver's license, and they sign that they're, eligible to vote, they can vote. And they're then no longer flagged. They're on the system. Is that correct?
Mr. Linnell.
Madam Chair, if I could add and maybe stepping back from those that are flagged as CID on the roster, for anyone that's presenting documentation to register to vote, that is affirmation of their identity. The driver's license has not been used as proof of citizenship for the purposes of registering to vote. It's affirming that they are who they say they are. So right. In any of these cases where someone were to cast a ballot if they were ineligible to
Just
vote,
say it.
There are also reports that are generated
Yes.
post-election for voters that are challenged that counties will run to show status of voters that had been updated due to the fact that they've now cast a ballot that can be reviewed and referred to the county attorney.
Okay, so the answer is yes to my question.
Bureaucratic garbage babble from somebody who doesn't want to answer the question. Yes, illegal aliens can vote. He was just explaining without saying it that, yeah, I mean, they could end up on a list and somebody could look at a list and then maybe send that to the county attorney who could go investigate and prosecute them. Okay. So did their votes count or not? Did you disqualify them? Is there any mechanism to kick that vote out, or does it just get counted and put on a list? It gets counted and put on a list. That's why he didn't want to answer it. So voting rights in America major battleground. The Supreme Court is going to be hearing a very important case on the Voting Rights Act. We'll, of course, have the highlights on that. Keep our eye on this to make sure our elections are no longer rigged by the Democrats. Thank you for subscribing and joining as we continue our coverage on this one. All right, my beautiful friends, we got one final segment on the day, and then we're going to hear from you. And we can't wait to get into it, but here is this story right here. A State Department employee busted with classified materials spying for a foreign power. Not good. This guy's name is Ashley Tellis, now been charged with a crime by the Trump DOJ, and this dude's been everywhere. He is here at a Heritage Foundation speech, senior associate at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace, now charged with federal crimes. He has a lot of background, but he also has a Wikipedia over here. Senior fellow, Carnegie Endowment, International Security, Asian Strategic Issues, the Rand School. Originally from Mumbai, India, later earned a PhD. Now he's got an arrest he's got to contend with. Here's the criminal complaint out of the Eastern District of Virginia. That's Lindsay Halligan territory. In a criminal complaint, October 11th, saying that he has one count on lawful retention of national defense information. We've got an affidavit from an FBI agent called Jeffrey Scott, and here is what is inside. I, Jeffrey Scott, FBI agent, now bring these charges against the person called Ashley Tellis on behalf of the United States of America, submitting this affidavit to the DOJ, and he has been charged. He says, I'm a special agent with the FBI, and I've been doing this for quite some time, all the way since April 2010, currently assigned to Washington. I was also an intelligence analyst, special agent. I've conducted a bunch of things, search warrants, arrest. I can see things that are threats to national security, bunch of training, and I'm amazing. Now, I make this affidavit in support of a criminal complaint charging Ashley Tellis with retaining unlawfully national defense information, and I'm drawing from a bunch of my training and experience. This is not everything that is necessary, and more will be revealed. Here's what he explains for us. Under U.S. Code, whoever having unauthorized possession of any national security instruments is in big trouble. Not good. Under Executive Order 13526, the unauthorized disclosure of top secret materials is also a problem. And sensitive compartmented information is defined as we're familiar with. So here's what ultimately happened. They say Ashley Tellis is a naturalized U.S. citizen who, as of October 11th, resided at his home in Vienna, Virginia. Since 2001, Tellis has been employed with the Department of State, currently an unpaid senior advisor over there, working for free. What a nice guy. Additionally, Tellis is a contractor in the Office of Net Assessment, ONA, within the DoD. In his role with the ONA, Tellis is considered a subject matter expert on India and South Asian affairs. And apparently this dude is like famous in that region. Like he's like a, professor or something. Everybody knows him over in that part of the world. So it's a big deal. Additionally, Tellis is currently employed as a senior fellow at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. So due to his employment with the DOS, the DOD, he's got a top secret security clearance and he can access sensitive compartmented information. On August 2nd, 2001, he signed a document. Okay, you come into the U.S. government, you're going to sign this document. Okay, yeah, no problem. You agree to comply with laws and regulations? Yeah. You agree that you can't do any unauthorized disclosure? Yeah. And you know that if you do this, it could cause damage and you could be in trouble. You understand? Yeah, no problem at all. Signs it. On September 12th, 2025, Tellis was observed via video surveillance inside the Mark Center. That's a DoD facility located in Alexandria, Virginia, in the district of this court. Now, Tellis was observed via video surveillance entering a skiff utilized by his department. Computer records indicated that Tellis used a computer at an identified cubicle, and he had a coworker print multiple classified documents for him that day. Wow, had a coworker do it. Hey, man, my terminal's acting up. You mind helping me facilitate federal crimes? Later that evening, after Tellis departed, investigators located 2 red-weld file pockets, both labeled Tellis, in the cubicle that Tellis had used. The documents contained in the file pockets included the documents printed by the coworker earlier the day, including a document that was top secret. On September 25th, he then entered the building, Harry S. Truman Building, at 3 p.m. He entered the office of the Bureau of South and Central Asian Affairs and logged into ClassNet, the DOS's secret-level computer system, and he stayed there for approximately 1 hour and then left. Now, later that same day, Tellis returned to the building at approximately 8:11 p.m., late night. He entered through the C Street entrance carrying a leather briefcase and a bag. At 8:13 p.m., he badged into his office, Suite 5247. Then at 8:17, he logged into ClassNet. At 8:19, he opened a PDF file from the desktop with a file name that referenced adversary fighter aircraft and the year 24. The file opened as a document with a title that referred to U.S. Air Force tactics, techniques, and procedures. The document had a Department of Air Force seal at the top and banner markings at the top that read Secret, FGI, RSEN, No Foreign, FISA. The document was 1,288 pages in length. That's a good one. Tellis then opened the print window, but canceled without printing. Every keystroke monitored. Tellis resaved the document, changed the file name to Econ Reform, like it's some economics report. Tellis reopened the print window and entered 59 through 172 in the pages window. I don't want to print 1,200 pages, so he just needs page 59 through 172. He selected multiple for page sizing and handling, right? This format showed in the print preview window to arrange 2 pages from the document being printed so that they're just kind of stacked side by side. 2 pages on 1 sheet. Much smaller stack of paper. This format allowed him, and he also scrolled through most of the pages of the print preview. They're just watching him, scrolling through. Tellis clicked on the printer selection drop-down menu and selected a printer. Then at 8:26, he pressed the print button, but the document did not print. Typical. Tellis attempted to print the document several times, but it did not appear that the document printed. They never work. At approximately 8:33, Tellis opened an unclassified document concerning a public speech by a U.S. government official. Tellis printed that document. At 8:34, he then reopened the document, now titled Econ Reform, and then printed it again. He printed pages 173 to 285, 286 to 398. Then at 8:49, he printed pages 943 to 959. Then he deletes the file. Gone. At approximately 8:52, Tellis then opened a PDF document classified as secret, no foreign intelligence. Now, the file opened was a U.S. Air Force weapons school document concerning military aircraft capabilities. He briefly scrolled through the document, printed all 40 pages. He's like, oh, this is a good one. At approximately 8:53, Tellis opened a PDF document classified, secret, no foreign. The file opened was another weapons school document concerning the military. He printed that puppy too. Then at 9:11 p.m., he logged off. At 9:17, he badged out of the building carrying the bag and the briefcase. Then on October 10th, so time fast forward a little bit, he probably thinks he's gotten away with it too, if it wasn't for these meddling FBI agents. Tellis was observed again inside the Mark Center on October 10th, not long ago. Again, in a skiff in the same cubicle. He's like, I'll just do this again. Nobody caught me. Tellis was observed on video surveillance again, arriving at the cubicle, carrying his bag again. At 10:14 a.m., he removed multiple pages, documents A, from a file pocket located on his desk and placed documents A on his desk. The first page of document A appeared to be a PowerPoint presentation in landscape format. He was then observed opening a leather briefcase and bag for the first time since arriving at his cubicle and removing notepads and placing them on top of the red weld file pocket. Tellis then appeared to remove additional documents, documents B, from the notepads that he brought with him, and he placed document B on his desk next to document A. So the document B, also a PowerPoint presentation that kind of looked like the first set of documents. While sitting in his cubicle at 10:18 a.m., Tellis appeared to read one of the pages from Documents A, which Tellis previously removed from the file pocket. Now, the FBI agent believes this page is classified as top secret, appears to be a document that was previously printed and left at the same cubicle utilized by him when he was there a month ago. Then at approximately 12:20, right around lunchtime, he's observed on video sitting at the cubicle and placing Documents A in and amongst his notepads. So kind of maybe like, shoving them in there. Yeah. More specifically, he lifted some of the pages of one of the notepads and inserted the documents, kind of like when you do the bridge with a deck of cards, you just kind of shove in the documents inside the notepad. Between the notepad pages, and then straightened Documents A so they aligned with the pages of the notepad, and then reinserted Documents A into the notepad. He then glanced over his shoulder. Any feds in here? Towards the exit, then placed the notepads with the documents, including the classified top secret level documents, into his briefcase and bag, observed leaving the cubicle at 12:21 for the day. Bye. Then left the building, departed the Mark Center, drove directly to his home in Virginia, and the vehicle is registered to him and his spouse. And then busted. Now, Tellis has met with government officials of the PRC, People's Republic of China, multiple occasions over the past several years. On September 15th, 2022, so way back, multiple PRC government officials and Tellis had dinner at a restaurant in Fairfax, Virginia. Tellis entered the restaurant with a manila envelope, and the PRC officials entered the restaurant with a gift bag. Man, they've been watching this dude for a while. Tellis and the PRC officials sat in the back corner of the restaurant with the manila envelope on the table. The dinner meeting, and this is 2022, remember, these new charges are, these new activities are from 2025, right? So the two most recent skiffs, so this is old. The dinner meeting lasted approximately 2 hours, and Tellis did not appear to have the manila envelope in his possession once he left that restaurant. Wonder what they were having. I think it was Chinese food. On April 11th, 2023, Tellis again had dinner with PRC government officials in Fairfax, Virginia. So that's because I'm sure they're everywhere. During the meal, Tellis and the officials could be occasionally overheard talking about Iranian-Chinese relations and emerging technologies, including AI. On March 19th, they've got the whole thing just recorded. On March 19th, Tellis dined again with other officials, 24, at a restaurant in Fairfax, Virginia. After finishing their meal, the group continued conversing and were heard speaking about U.S.-Pakistani relations. On September 2nd, then this year, he had another dinner with these officials in Fairfax. And very near the end of the dinner, they gave Tellis a red gift bag too, like the good communists they are. On October 11th, 2025, we got a search warrant. I've been following this dude for years. He's meeting with the Chinese. We got a search warrant, and we searched his house and his vehicle and his person, all conducted on the same day. While searching Tellis's house in Vienna, investigators located over 1,000 pages of paper documents with classification markings, top secret or secret levels, located all throughout the house, just scattered everywhere. The documents were generally found in 4 locations: a 4-drawer locked filing cabinet in a closet in the basement home office area, a 2-drawer locked filing cabinet in the basement home office area, 3 in the vicinity of a desk in the basement home office, and 4 in 3 large black trash bags in an unfinished storage room in the basement. It's like the bravado, man. Everywhere. Based on information developed during the execution of the search warrants, I believe that the basement of the home is the primary area utilized by Tellis. A laptop on the desk was unlocked during the search. We used his fingerprint. He then directed investigators to keys that investigators used to open the 2 locked filing cabinets. This dude's giving up everything. The keys were stored in a closet near the filing cabinets. On the desk in the basement home office, investigators also located a document with secret portion markings. And this dude was about to get out of Dodge. Tellis had scheduled international travel for the evening of on or about October 11th. the date of the search of his residence. The dude was going to bail. Tellus and his family had been scheduled to travel to Rome, Italy, and he was going to participate in a work engagement in Italy. According to flight reservations, he would have returned to the United States back on October 27th at some point. So I submit this affidavit. There's probable cause here. This dude has a bunch of classified documents he's not allowed to have. So we think he should be charged. And of course he was. Jeffrey Scott, special agent over at the FBI. And this dude was busted. So it's pretty interesting, man, how long they were following this dude. Sounds like they had full surveillance on him at every one of those meetings going all the way back to 2022. And he just thought he was going to get away with it. He's like, got these. He comes home after stealing it's been such a long day. Just flips them on the desk. That top secret. And then probably he's giving it all to the Chinese. Now he's busted. And so Fox News reporting that they've reached out to the State Department for comment. They're not getting much from him. And so another spy busted with classified documents. Who knows how long he's been doing it? Probably a long time, given the fact that he was so careless with all of the thousands of pages of documents around his home. So shout out to the FBI and the DOJ. Nice to see them actually do something useful rather than targeting Catholic pro-lifers. We're going to keep our eye on the spies and the foreign influence. Thank you for subscribing and joining as we do. All right, my friends. What'd you think about that, dude? Pretty ridiculous. If you're just joining us, quick recap on what we talked about. Happy birthday to Charlie Kirk. Congrats on the Medal of Honor awarded posthumously. It's a tough word for me. So Turning Point USA celebrating, of course. President was out there. MSNBC did not want to talk about it, but Erica got the Medal of Honor, Medal of Freedom, a true honor from the President of the United States in a beautiful ceremony. Then we turned our attention to Tish's family and the repeat criminal offenders who are apparently living in her residence. All of these jail records for this woman right here, who is not happy when people come and approach her to ask some simple questions like who's living here and who owns it? Do you pay rent? All sorts of those other things. She didn't want to talk about it, but she's got a very long criminal record and it's just incredible. So we went through that, got the latest on that. Tish is putting her fist in the air. Eastern District of Virginia is now firing other bad attorneys, and Brandon Gill, a representative, saying Tish is not above the law. It's very simple. Her own standard is being applied to her. Why all the screeching about it, Jake? We also saw Democrats are absolutely freaked. The Voting Rights Act is making its way up to the Supreme Court of the United States. We're excited about that. If they find it to be unconstitutional because it is creating racially districted districts, then the Democrats think that their rigged rules will cost them 19 seats in Congress. And so they are not happy about it. We've got Obama screaming at people in California, please go sign this so we can at least steal those 5 seats back. And we have illegals voting all over the country. Minnesota is finding it out because this one guy called Paul Linnell doesn't want to answer questions honestly and truthfully. So he just comes out with a whole mouthful of Kamala-inspired bureaucratic technobabble about what's ultimately happening. But the answer is illegals are voting in elections, as we all know. We also then saw the State Department has arrested, the DOJ has arrested a State Department employee. This dude right here was caught with thousands of pages of documents that were not supposed to be in his possession in the basement of his home. And he was having a bunch of meetings with the Chinese. Now he's been arrested. We saw charged with 1 count, unlawful retention of national defense information. And we read through the affidavit brought forth by the FBI in a juicy spy scandal. And of course, now, my friends, it's time to hear from you. And let's see what you say about all this. Thank you for being here. And thank you for joining us on this lovely stream. Grateful to have you. Let's see what you have to say about all of these. I see some great comments. Hey, what is going on over here? This is about right. This is a real photo, I think. Happy No Tish Tuesday. She's eating the Constitution. Unbelievable. John McGarvey says this GIF is real. Is not real. It is AI. Oh, it is AI. She's not actually eating it. All right. She kind of is, though. Hey, what's up? Former LEO shared this one from CBS News. Local news story. CBS News Chicago says a federal judge has ordered that the security fence be removed from Chicago's ICE facility. It's ridiculous. Maybe there should be 1,500 ICE agents sent to protect the facility since federal judges just don't care. From former LEO. Is that what that article is? What a joke. You can't even secure your own federal property? Those judges are ridiculous. Bucky's is Rome. What's up, Bucky's is Rome? Says Democrat donor faces embezzlement probe over a $20 million grant from Gretchen Whitmer's administration. Dang. 20 million? Man, that's big money. Chief of staff apologized after a 20 million grant was not given to the correct group, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure it was just an accident. Here's another one from Bucky's is Rome. Here's a report. Dem-led Oregon on track to spend $500 million more for healthcare program that includes illegals than for the state police. Breitbart article. Yeah, well, that's their constituency. That's who they want. They love the illegal aliens. This one coming in over from this old guy. Tish Baseless James strikes again from this old guy. Yeah. And she has, if you go on her X account, we've done the search. No one is above the law. It's constant. She's got so many comments about mortgage fraud and all the things. Steve Palmer, what's up? Hey, thank you, Steve. Welcome aboard. Our newest supporter. We had a great members only stream this morning. We talked about Obama pouting. We talked about, Hegseth firing fat soldiers. And the new memo, the media memo scandal. Talked about all that this morning. We had a great stream. Thank you, Steve, for signing up. Quadcam, what's up? We should just call it what it is. What it is. The Voting Rights Act is just racist DEI for voting. Yeah, you have to create special groups, and it's a zero-sum game. Like the pie can only be carved up once. So if you favor one group, you're naturally oppressing the other groups. Like who's to say it should be for this color or that color or this color? It's ridiculous. What kind of country is this? John McGarvey. Rob, someone needs to subpoena Tishy's niece's food stamps application. Interesting. The SNAP program. I would bet Tushy gave her a fake lease for proof of residency. I'm telling you, something is there. That is interesting. Yeah. What was she reporting? I mean, she told the grand jury that she was not paying anything. But was she? Or was she lying on some benefits form? I think it's an interesting idea, John. Hopefully they're digging into it. This old guy. And jazz hands Timmy Walls has been busy for years issuing driver's licenses to illegal aliens. Yeah, and then many of them just drive drunk, kill your kids on the road or whatever. And they want more of it. And they think it's a better form of society in America to have illegal alien invaders driving around illegally. The driver's license to vote is BS. If they are not a citizen, the license must be marked as limited term. Hence, they know it is an illegal, and they are doing this on purpose. They're sketchy a-holes from Trisha. That sounds right. Yeah, that sounds exactly right, Trisha. Thank you for that one. I'm happy that representative in Minnesota was asking about it. They do the same thing in California, and in Arizona, you got to be a citizen to get a license. So just send everybody over to Cali. Just go get one over there. Tim Jake, what's up? Hey, Tim Jake is our resident secret agent. Says monitoring of all activity on classified systems has always been there, but went to crazy levels after Snowden gave the Russians over 1.5 million pages of classified info. Yes, it's a keystroke logger for everything, Tim Jake. And you'd think these guys with that type of access would know that, right? They've just been probably doing it for so long, they just get lazy and sloppy, right? What do you think about that, Tim? Hey, Doan says, why didn't we double up TELUS against China? That's a great question. And I wonder if that will be some part of his plea deal. Like, does he have access? Like, he's not, he's obviously busted, so he's burned. So the Chinese will, they've identified him. He's now high risk for being a double agent. So as part of that, does he have contacts? Does he have access? Does he have other materials that are useful that he can give up? other names of other people who are still assets in order to buy himself out of some penalty. Yeah. Jay Marino. Mortgage fraud or tax fraud? Isn't taking business deductions, i.e. depreciation and operating expenses on a non-investment second home tax fraud? Of course it is. Well, I mean, they looked into her taxes, and I think she was reporting it as income. So where was that income coming from? Why would she report income? So she has to pay taxes on it? I'm not sure. Jess or Bob? Rob, I want to get in contact with Jigam for some design work. Do you have her information available? And I do believe we do. I can't remember which stream you shared it. Also, super happy to be listening to a live show. Being a lurker is not the same. It's great to have you, Jess or Bob. Yeah, I think we do have Jigam. Her website, and Jigam's amazing. Her website is HeidiProductions.com. Let me see if I can grab the link. So HeidiProductions.com is the link that I have. And yep, boom, here it is. So check this one out. It's at HeidiProductions.com. And there's the amazing Jigam. It's what she does. She's awesome. So go check her stuff out. HeidiProductions.com. We love Jigam. We also, thank you, Jess or Bob. Glad you're here, my man. Thanks for thinking about Jigam for your design work. You will not be disappointed. Hey, Tim Jake, I was once part of an insider threat investigation. Our secret agent says Office of Special Investigations showed me a list of every file the person accessed on the computer. I had to explain what each of those docs was. Interesting. Yeah, so they can see everything. And again, it begs the question, how did this guy not know, that you're going to get caught? And they were onto him for a while. So maybe there were some attempts to turn him or to exploit him. Like they clearly knew he was meeting with the Chinese. So maybe they just had enough. Like it was time. All right, we're going to burn this dude now. It's interesting. It's spy games, man. Super, super fascinating. Thank you for being here, Tim Jake, and for your expertise and your insight. What's going on? Trump's Sword is here. Trump's Sword. 4 months as a membo. Thank you, Trump Sword. Almost halfway to a baby. Says RCU has put super chats on fraud review. RCU, is that the Russian something? Well, this one came through loud and clear, Trump Sword. Thank you for that. Thank you for being here for 4 months. You're amazing. Run Mead, what's going on, Run Mead? Great to have you here, Run Mead. Says, will the redistricting decision have an impact on the future of Muslim-packed districts? Yeah, I mean, I guess it would go to the states and the redistricting bodies. But yeah, if you said, oh, that district has been carved up for Muslims specifically, or for anybody, that would be unconstitutional because it's a race-based distinction that is prohibited. We had a civil war. We had the Reconstruction Amendments. So anything that's carved up by race or religion, anything that's a suspect class, you could say you can't do that. So just carve them up. Stop making them look like this. Just make them nice and even, right? And everybody gets counted. Yeah, so it's a big one. Tim Jake, what's going on, Tim Jake? Every time you log into a classified system, you must acknowledge monitoring before you enter your user ID or password. It's crazy. And he's like, oh, perfect. Let me just look at all of these Air Force documents and just print all these pages out. How does you... Wild. Tim Jake, thank you for that. That all makes sense to me. That all makes sense to me. Says, hey, what's going on, Tim Jake? Thank you for that. Jester Bob, thank you. Thank you, Jester Bob, for reaching out to support our friend Jigam with some amazing services. Hey, Rob, John Allen. What's up, John? I wanted to write you after watching yesterday's show and just getting a chance to catch you live. Not to bring up a subject that's been slept on, but I've been a Locals member since spring 2020 and even a member on YouTube. And speaking for myself, but I'm sure most of us feel the same way. You do an awesome job of bringing us content, whether you have a 10-minute show or a 2.5-hour show. I appreciate what you do. In fact, I'm not sure how you keep it up. It's a lot of work. John, thank you. We appreciate everything you do. Thank you for your content and time. Keep up the good work, and congratulations to you and Alexis. Thank you. May you both be blessed and happy together always. John Allen. Good to see you, my friend. What a nice comment. Thank you for that. Yeah, I, changed my diaper after yesterday's show and threw it out. Okay. All right. But John, thank you for that, man. I appreciate it. I really enjoy our time together. I'm grateful for all of our membos and for all of the time we spend together. And I hope it shows. I hope it comes across because that's real. Jay Marino, if Tish claims a second home her family lived in and felon says that she didn't pay rent, so not an investment property. Tish filing tax returns taking deductions for depreciation, capital improvements, and expenses is a tax fraud. Yeah, that's true too. So I didn't see much on that in the actual indictment, but I thought we had, the Tish James indictment. Do I have her court docket pulled up? Let me grab it. Because there wasn't much in there on that one. And here, let's pull this up. It's taking a lot longer than I thought it would. But let's see if there's just any updates on this one. Nothing since 10/9. Yeah, so this is the Tish docket. And we just had the indictment. And the indictment was not much. Taking a look at the PDF here. There was some forfeiture stuff, count 2, false statements, favorable terms on the loan. What did it say about the taxes? First Savings Bank. Yeah, there's not much in there. Count 1 would be used as a secondary residence. Property was intended to be used. Forfeiture. Yeah, so not a lot of materials there. Anyways, we'll keep our eye on it. Thank you for that comment, Jay Marino. J-Man. Pleased to announce Baby Watcher is here. 1 pound, 1 ounce, born at 24 weeks. She is strong and moving. Well, dang. That's a preemie for sure. 1 pound, 1 ounce. Well, 24 weeks. Couldn't wait to get out and get here. Well, welcome aboard, little one. We appreciate you being here. J-Man, thank you for that. Nice donut, my brother. Appreciate you being here. Shout out to our new baby, born at 24 weeks. Would they be bigger than that? I don't know. My friends, let's say hello to our friends on X. Then we're going to go over to our members only after party. We'll debrief and see what else you have to say about this. If you're a YouTube membo or a locals membo, can't wait to see you. We got some comments. Robert Jackson, great to see you over on X. Sorry that YouTube wasn't working for you today. Jack Robinson, she's a big crook. Lock her up. James Pepper sharing some stuff about Frankenstein. Says, my district in Dallas is an enormous half circle that is mostly outside Dallas and is 60 miles in diameter. B. Torn is saying, same mayor behind the ice fence erected her own fence along the road and down the road from where ice is. And Neuro D sharing the Rumble link. Thank you for that. So again, sorry about the thumbnail. I had to do it. I just couldn't help myself. I had to. But I know it is traumatizing. But it's real. It's the news. So what can we say? All right. So my friends, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for those great donos. Thanks for joining us on the live stream. We're going to go now to our members only after party over on YouTube and on Locals, watchingthewatchers.locals.com. If you want to come check it out, we'd love to have you and we appreciate you. But we'll pause here for the evening. Big thanks to our amazing mods and meme smiths, our friends, Donut Mind Me, clipping for us. Of course, John. Thank you to K Bean, Carrie B, Neuro D, Janik, and Dog Digger, our friends, Just Rhonda, Elliot, and Gigum, all modding the fort down for us, keeping things nice and orderly. One final comment came skidding in here from Deluxe Knight, the farmer in the house, grows all of our food for us. We love our farmers. I only hope that this voter rights case goes the right way. It could totally change the landscape of my home state of Washington. In 24, we had a judge force redistricting 3 months before the general election. It was done in the guise of a growing population of Hispanics in Yakima County, beautiful county. The Rhino Dan Newhouse would have more likely than been unseated by New R blood. That change took 94% of my county out of Newhouse's coverage and confused them all when ballots arrived at their doors. Yeah, so it's the people who control the rules are changing the rules. We saw that back during COVID when all of the judges usurped the legislative branch and just allowed the settlement agreements from the secretaries of state to go into effect. And that led to the theft of the election. As we all saw, they just changed the rules and they won the game. Not anymore, baby. We won it back. And so we're excited about that. But all right, we're going to pause here for the evening, my friends. We're heading over to our members only after party. We'd love it if you came and joined us, but if not, we're coming back tomorrow, baby. And we're going to get into it again. And in order to do that appropriately, we are going to need to see you right back here so that together with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. We'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching, my beautiful friends. Now it's that time where the stream must end. You brought the heat with every chatting line. Together we expose corruption. One more time we dove in the truth where the media hides. Lit up the lies with receipts on all sides. The fight isn't over, but we made them sweat. We ain't done yet, no, not just yet. Because together